I think the best way for investors to start investing is in single family homes, 100%. And then they scale it to duplexes, quadplexes. They can then scale it to commercial properties, anything over 4 doors. You make money in real estate when you buy the home. So I want to buy it less than market value. And that's important so that I have an exit strategy, right? If the market shifts, I can always get out of it. And I didn't just pay top of the market for an investment property.
What advice would you give to somebody wanting to start their own business?
All right. My first piece of advice would be simply,
can you introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Shawn Derrick, out in Fredericksburg, Virginia, and run the 1245 team, which is a real estate team with Keller Williams Realty.
All right. And can you tell us a little bit how you got into the business?
Oh, man. Long story. I will keep it short. I got into the business a little bit over 10 years ago, and one of the primary reasons I got in the business was I also serve as a pastor at my church. And I just have a heartbeat for the community. Love the community. Real estate puts me in the community in a different way than typical. And so I said, you know what? I have no idea how much money I'll make in real estate, but I know I have the opportunity to care for people in real estate transactions. So that's what made me jump in.
All right. And then how did your kind of business start? Like, how did you kind of move it forward to where you are today?
Yeah. So my best friend was in real estate. He had a high producing real estate team up in Northern Virginia. And 10 years ago, when I was thinking about getting in the business, I just gave him a call. I was like, hey man, what are you doing? What are you doing that's right? I'm thinking about getting in the business. And that quickly led to us just simply having a conversation about getting in business together. So he was up in Maryland, I was down in Fredericksburg, and he said, hey, Shawn, why don't you just take what I'm doing? You go do it down in Fredericksburg. And I loved it because he had the admin, he had the marketing, he had all of the support. All I had to do was go talk to people. And so really that partnership is what sprung board a very successful career.
Gotcha. And like, how does your first property kind of go? Your listings? How does your first job go? Do you leave the job that you're at, or do you keep pastoring? What do you kind of do to kind of get by? Because in South Florida, we have hundreds of real estate agents that obviously are trying to make a commission and just don't end up working out just because it takes a long time, or they're not being able to get paid enough money to really live.
It's a great question. And so my first year in the business, I jumped in. I had the privilege of helping about 31 families buy and sell that year. And then it scaled. It went to 56, went to 75, then it was 100. And I had a lot of people asking me, Shawn, what are you doing? What are you doing to get business? How are you doing this? And for me, I'll be honest, my answer was always seemed really weak, because I didn't really feel like I was doing anything special. All I was doing was waking up and going to work. So 10 years ago, that was door knocking. I just woke up. I have 5 kids I had to provide for. At that point, my wife stayed at home with the family, and we were homeschooling, and I had to make money. So I started door knocking and just meeting people. And it just escalated fast to where folks that I knew were excited to refer me business, meeting people that needed to sell. I just woke up and talked to people all day. And that was it. So not, they always say this business is not, it's not complicated. It's actually very simple, but it's not easy. It's a reality.
And that first year, to sell 31, that's a pretty good number. I mean, that's, how does that change from today? Because you said when you first started, it was door knocking. Are you cold calling? Is it all referrals from today? And what was kind of how much you made when you first started to kind of what you're making now?
Yeah. So, the first year, was definitely netting over 100, which was great, helpful for the family. That escalated real quickly, going to, kind of 5 times that with when you're selling over 100 homes. Though my business now is different. And so one of the challenges that I had kind of come into is I was very grateful to be helping, 100 families buy and sell. But to be honest, even though I had a team, I had leverage, I had a lot of support to be able to effectively personally help 100 families, it was just a lot. It was a lot. It was a lot of phone calls. It was a lot of folks to be able to care for, to answer questions at all hours of the day. And I had a pretty tight schedule, but it was still a lot. And I remember my wife and I, we just sat back and we went on a getaway retreat, and we just said, so what do I want to be doing when I'm 50? Like, what am I going to do when I'm retiring? And it was easy. I don't want to be helping 100 families selling by. Like, that was just too much. And so we just kind of said, well, then what is it for us? And that simply said, well, if I don't want to be helping that many families selling by, in 15 years, how are we going to make an income? And for me, I knew real estate. So it was like, well, how about we just simply start investing in real estate? So we took a pivot about 5 years ago, and we just said, how much money do we need coming in, passive income every month when we're retired? For us, it was like, well, probably minimum $250,000. Okay. How many houses do I need to own to be able to bring in $250,000 passive income? For my area, it was 12. So 5 years ago, we just said, all right, our retirement plan is go buy 12 rental properties and get them paid off. And then there is our retirement plan. So that's what we did. We went and got 12 rental properties. And then I fell in love with the investment world, and through flipping and through landlording. So my business now has pivoted from sole retail to both retail and flipping. And so I'm not door knocking, but I'm also not serving, 100 families on the retail side anymore, because I'm also giving my time towards landlording, acquiring rental properties, and flipping houses. So that's a long answer to a little bit of the why behind that.
Gotcha. And now everybody online talks about passive income. Yeah. I mean, I don't see it just being passive income, because I think you still have to probably fix stuff. You still have to hire people. You still have to check on stuff. You're still taking calls.
Yeah.
But obviously, I understand it's a lot less work than, a full-time job that's 9 to 5. But, if you were giving somebody tips on buying rental properties and what they should look for and what they should do, what would be like your top 3 tips?
Yeah, no, that's great. Yeah, I think the best definition of passive income that I like to talk about is it's getting paid in the future for a lot of the work you did in the past. So it's like passive income. It does not mean you don't do anything today. It's just you're getting paid on a lot of work you did in the past, and you're just getting paid little by little, forever in the future. So for that, yes, it absolutely still takes work to manage and to maintain that income. But my top 3 tips for, I think, landlords or investors are wanting to get into the rental, the rent and hold scenario is, first and foremost, to truly understand the why behind it. Like, why do you want to own investment properties? A lot of people love the idea, but that's as far as it goes. They're like, I think I've heard this is an important thing to do. And it doesn't go anywhere because it's just sort of an exciting idea. I really do think it helps when they sit down to write out your future budget. And I think the best definition of wealth is, how much money do you need coming in per month to be able to live the purpose of your life without having to work? And so just deciding, how much is that? And once you figure that out, you then need to back it up and say, how does real estate going to help me get there? And when you can tie that why into a future financial goal, it motivates you to deal with the bad tenants. It motivates you to go fix a leaky faucet, because I'm doing it for a future purpose that's way bigger than my today. So that would be honestly, one of the biggest ones for me, is just really understanding why are you doing it. After that, it's simply understanding the numbers behind the investment, making sure that's a wise investment property. And then I would say third is treat your tenant very well. Serve them really well. And always remember that your relationship with a renter is the lease. And that's it. So it's that combination.
Gotcha. And like, when you're looking at like the numbers of a property, are you looking at properties in your area? Are you kind of looking all around the United States? And also, are you looking for something that's pretty beat up? Because I feel like a lot of people look at something and go, a lot of people always talk about, get a duplex, get this. And it's like, well, a duplex has already been fixed up and everything's been done to it, and you're paying, an extra $200,000. Are you going to really be able to make money even in the future on that, or how does that kind of work?
Yeah, absolutely. So in the investment world, a lot of people can definitely jump into any one of those scenarios. I think if people simply have money and they're looking to park it somewhere, then go buy a fixed up rental property. All right. If it's a duplex, if it's quadplex, eightplex, single family, doesn't matter. You're just parking that money somewhere. Most investors are not necessarily just looking to park their money. They're looking to invest as little of their own money as possible to be able to own the real estate so that they can scale. So for that, yes, that's my world. I am looking to, they say you make money in real estate when you buy the home. So I want to buy it less than market value. And that's important so that I have an exit strategy, right? If the market shifts, I can always get out of it. And I didn't just pay top of the market for an investment property. So I look for homes that I can add value to. When I add value to it, that's sweat equity. When I have more equity in the home, that gives me exit strategies. And if I just absolutely had to sell it, I'm protected. My family's protected. So I think the best way for investors to start investing is in single family homes, 100%. And then they scale it to duplexes, quadplexes. They can then scale it to commercial properties, anything over 4 doors. But understanding how to run the business with one single family house is by far the best in my opinion, so that you can then scale your business.
Gotcha. And I'm in Miami, so obviously a single family home here is usually probably $800,000 more, which is kind of a hard investment to get for somebody to start off in. How do you feel about condos or co-ops, that type of stuff? Here, we're having our rates go high. It's hard to get insurance on these type of things. How do you feel about those as an investment?
Yeah. So, I really believe if the numbers work, if you could simply buy an asset and you subtract all of the expenses that you're going to have, and if that rental rate is high enough to where you have a monthly cash flow, awesome, buy it. But if you don't have a positive cash flow, then it's risky because you're now buying it as an equity play, meaning you're hoping to be able to resell it, be able to make your money. And that's riskier. Now, with the higher interest rates right now, most investors are having to play that game a little bit. It's hard to really cash flow high on properties because a lot of investors are really looking to making about $300 a month on positive cash flow. So it's really not a whole lot, right? But just think about it. When the interest rate goes down 1%, that means your mortgage goes down 10%. So my area average price point is $500,000. Well, if that mortgage payment is $3,500, next year it goes down 1%. That saves me $350 a month. Well, that is the whole margin that an investor needs to cash flow. So a lot of investors are acquiring property now because they believe that homes are going to appreciate and they're going to refinance and they'll get their cash flow in a year or two. It's just a little bit of a riskier play.
Gotcha. And can you walk us through the first time you bought a house, meaning did you end up going to a bank? Did you put 10% down? How does that first go at that first buy?
Yeah. So my first rental property was simply a home that I lived in. So I bought it as my primary residence. We were going to move. I kept it as a rental property and bought another house. So that was my first one. And I'll be honest, that's the way that I often give advice to my own kids. I got 5 of those little squirts and I'm teaching them real estate. And I want them to be able to go buy a house every year, because once you buy a primary residence, you get lowest interest rate, you get low down payment. The moment you start buying investment properties as an investment property, now you're required to do a 20% down payment if you're going to do a conventional loan, right? And that's a lot of money, right, to save up. So my world, I started off with really my primary residence being turned into rental property. And then I started buying properties with 20% down payment. And now I don't do that anymore. Now I'm buying properties at a distressed price. I'm renovating them. I'm using the built-in equity that I just created by renovating it as my down payment. And so that way I can just put a little less of my own money into the property to keep it.
And, kind of back to your business that you started, do you see marketing changing for the real estate business? Meaning you said you used to go door to door. How does marketing kind of work nowadays for it?
So it is changing. There was this one neighborhood I door knocked. Oh my. I mean, I feel like I knew everybody in that neighborhood. I door knocked it hard for 4 years, did events in there. I mean, I was very well known in there. And then I stopped, especially COVID kind of stopped us from door knocking. We still did some open houses, but you weren't going to door knock at that point. But during COVID, if you remember, the real estate market went crazy. So I didn't need to. Like, there was so much work coming in. I say that because about 3 or 4 months ago, we went out and door knocked for a charity that we're supporting. So we were doing kind of, raising some support for them. And it was such a different experience. I was knocking on doors and everybody has a Ring doorbell now. No one opens the door. Everyone's like, hello. And they're like upstairs in bed probably, And I'm like talking to a door. I'm thinking, I look ridiculous. I'm sitting here talking to a doorbell about how I can help them. So it definitely has changed. And you just think about social media, the way people connect now. Even though people appreciate face-to-face, that social way of connecting is almost a higher priority. And so our marketing now is very high on the social context, like more like social media and connections on the phone. And then we invite them to events that we do, because I really do believe that what's that term they call it, belly to belly, face to face kind of communication is the best way to build relationships. But it takes longer to meet people in person. So we do a lot more with our social media. We do a lot with just connections on the phone, but then we invite them to events, which we can actually finally meet them. And so it does require a little bit more intentionality to meet them in person.
And I guess my last question would be, what advice would you give to somebody wanting to start their own business?
Business in general. Absolutely. Oh man, I have so much advice. All right. My first piece of advice would be simply hire a coach. I know it sounds crazy. That business isn't even making money yet. Though, hire a coach to walk you through business planning, creating a business plan that is filled with metrics that are accomplishable. If you're willing to bet on yourself by hiring a coach, you're going to succeed. So that,
I guess it's like working out. If you hire a trainer, it's going to motivate you and kind of put you there every day to make sure that you're doing what you're supposed to be doing.
That's exactly right. And our brains are wired to think, but I don't have money. And that's just a victim way of thinking. It's like, no, if you believe in this business and you have the grit to do it, then believe in yourself. Hire a coach who's going to put together a plan and keep you accountable. Because the reality is, entrepreneurs can be a very lonely business. And when you have a coach, you're not alone. And it's going to push you to accomplish the goals that you have. So that's why every succeeding athlete has had coaches in their life. So don't be a lone ranger is my recommendation.